we've been confined to our rooms. Most of us are fearful of what's going to happen the next moment. Is it going to be good, bad, ugly? No one is aware about what's going to happen. At this moment, what all we can do is sit down and use our judgments and predictions, as well as try and understand how things are changing and how things are going to look once all this is history. So this is a, I mean, in the next 30-35 minutes that I will speak to you guys before you start questioning me, what we'll try to define is definitely things are not going to be the same as they were last year. It's the entry is into a new normal. You are going to be facing challenges, difficulties, maybe lifestyle changes, which are now going to be the new normal, or what I call it the next normal. This is going to be a way of life at many levels. There are certain things which will completely be a past, a story that you might want to tell your children, your grandchildren, and people of the next generation. Sticking to the topic, I would cover the aspect of startups and businesses and how they would look in the next normal. Again, this presentation is purely my view and my understanding of business. I've been speaking to private equity, VCs, business owners, startups, incubators, accelerators across the globe, starting from Australia to USA. And I've tried to confine a collective opinion or a consensus which is currently present in the market, although you never know, things might be completely different as we step ahead. So I'll begin my presentation preparing for the next normal. What does it mean for a startup to prepare for the next normal? There are certain things which are very clear. Your travel has been restricted. You can't fly. So you'll see a lot of massive dangers that we are facing right now. There is unemployment increasing across the globe. US is putting in numbers. We are dealing with migrant crisis. There are a lot of challenges that we are going to be facing. So what happens when this kind of challenges come up to a startup, which is itself in its nascent stage, has limited resources? Although survival is the biggest challenge currently which these guys would be facing. But yes, once you wither the storm, where do you head? What do you change? There are a lot of questions that I have been getting across the world, and we'll look at some of those in the next few minutes. So what has this coronavirus done to us? How has our lifestyle changed? We've started working from home. There is no in-person meetings. We're not even on the personal level, professional level, be it education institution, be it classroom, be it businesses, everything is indoors. There is no travel, domestic or international. So there are no overseas meetings. There are no overseas projects coming up. There is a social distancing. A lot of things that we have seen over the past 10 years, what we call unicorn, were defined by the co-CO, the co-working space, the co-traveling space. Everything has come to a halt, and people have slowly started distrusting each other. You don't know the person whom you are traveling with or you are staying with is clean, doesn't have a disease which is communicable. Food critical, again, very important aspect. Our eating habits are slowly changing, whether we are realizing it or not realizing it. Although there is no such evidence of what I have seen that this coronavirus communicates via food, but there is a certain notion at the back of the mind. Yes, we have to start eating more cleaner, something that boosts our immunity, something that is not junk. People have suddenly confined themselves in home. Home cooked food is preferred over food from outside. are not sure what the packing is, you are not sure about what the ingredient is, you are not sure the person who's manufacturing that food is under what condition. Uh, Individual local travel is picking up slowly. People are again, again a part of social distancing. People are wanting to travel alone. There are bikes being used more. People are traveling via private cars. People are avoiding public transport for now, although most of it is still closed, but that is what we foresee even with the one that is available. Social scheduling has gone for a toss. What I mean by social scheduling is your marriages, birthdays, parties, everything is pretty much non-existent. Uh, this includes your activity classes, your gyms, your any place of social gathering, whether it was religious, non-religious, health, fitness, recreation, everything is coming. Each of these aspects does have an impact on a startup or a MSME, because most of, if you see, and if I asked you to write down 10 startups, each of them would involve or revolve around either of these 7 aspects. So why is this the next normal? Why are we calling it? It's one of those diseases. We have dealt with thousands of diseases. The world hasn't changed. We have had SARS. We have had HIV. Uh, we have had many such previous versions of coronaviruses, which did impact us, but not directly our lives. Our lives were repairable again. They came back to normal. But why are we calling this as the next normal? Is because yes, coronavirus may not be that dangerous across the board. If you hear a lot of people, they say 80% of the people will heal out of it. It's more riskier for the elderly population. But yes, the things that it is bringing to us, it's life changing, it's life altering. I mean, every one of us will surely agree to it. It's not something that we have seen or felt before, at least our generation. So I was attending a conference by the World Economic Forum, which was held on the 28th of March, 28th of April, and there were a few quotes that came out of brilliant people who have run businesses for over 40, 50 years. There were a few quotes that came in from regulators from various countries, various economic organizations. So I would be using few of them here, because although they might have been spoken about an economy or a large scale company, but they definitely imply to what startups will go through. Why are we calling this the next normal? Is because this infection is not going to disappear. Without science leading us to vaccines, we will get second and third waves of this. Now, this is said by Dr. Jamie Farrar, who's the director of Wellcome Trust, one of the biggest non-profit making organizations in the UK, dealing with billions of people currently going through the crisis that all of us are part of. What does this mean? What happens if you have a second wave or a third wave? How long can you be confined into your homes? How long is going to be the economic activity is going to stop? We have to slowly start adapting to this. Even if the vaccine comes in, none of the vaccines are still saying that they are in a position to kill the virus around. It's only about saving more of a people, trying to heal them faster. But none of them is saying that they have a perfect solution that kills this virus. So this virus is going to be a part of our life. And part of our business is part of our social gatherings. You have to stay with it. And if we have multiple waves of what some of the people are predicting about, confinement is not going to be the only way to it. Now, I was speaking to an accelerator in California, and there was a discussion that we soon might be facing with a new timeline. What we used to have a before Christ and after Christ kind of a situation, now we'll have a before Corona and a after Corona kind of a situation that will come in. People will slowly start referring to businesses which were before Corona things that were before Corona, and there will be things which will be after Corona. And you don't know how long is this timeline going to last. So what happens in the broader story? If I leave the word startup or early stage company for a while, there is a broader economy, there's a broader lifestyle, there is a broader business environment which is all going to be affected. It's the whole economy that is suffering. It's the whole mankind that is suffering. So what we'll try to drill through is how things are changing on the macro level and how does it boil down to a startup or an early stage company that is going through this. These are a couple of comic cartoons that one of the startups that I'm mentoring has put out. There is a lot of what they call it as in inverted commas labor pain. A lot of people are losing out their jobs. This has its implication in economic terms that there will be a less of money that is available to spend. People are scared. People are spending only on needs and not on greeds. All exclusive items have come to a standstill. Expensive businesses which were dealing in expensive items, even to the extent of non-essentials, what they call it now, are at a standstill. Because none of us want to spend in that money. None of the businesses, even the businesses, want to spend that money into pouring into something that is not yet essential. So what happens when we take the implication that people do not have much of money in hand and are using it only on essential services, including businesses, and how does that affect each and every sector? I have listed down 16, 17 sectors of what I could think or could be useful in the startup space, but this is as an industry as a whole. Every sector has an immediate impact on it, which is like if you look at aviation, for example, aviation, all flights are stopped. The sector is at standstill. So that's what I call the impact is immediate. And what about its recovery period? Do we see a world where we are not going to travel in a plane? That's not really possible. But yes, it might take some time till the time we have assurances that our traveling by a airline is actually safe for us like it used to be previously. So each of the sector I have tried to put it into how is the immediate impact and whether the recovery period is going to be short term, which is within 6 months things will come back to normal, medium term, which is up to 8 to 9 months, and long term, which is 12 plus months. Now these are big impacts. What we are speaking about is there could be position where things are zero revenue. If you follow Warren Buffett, I do. Over a couple of days, he's been in the news of withdrawing all his money from investment into airline companies. Because yes, we are looking at a situation where there could be a wipeout here. For a year, there could be minimal or zero revenues. Things are becoming that critical. So let us look at the various sectors that are there. Drugs, pharma, healthcare. Everyone knows the impact is. Now, when I speak about impact, it is also a cash flow impact. Whether the company is making money or how much is it losing. Immediate impact is moderate. Yes, there is medicine still being sold, although the levels might have come down a bit because again, people are not splurging on healthcare nor on pharmaceuticals. The recovery period is going to be short term because once things come into picture, people will start consuming medicines, at least the ones which is necessary to them. In fact, there are chances that they might start consuming a new range of medicine which actually protects them for anything which might come up like a COVID-19 if there is something that is coming up next to us. Livestock, what I mean by this is the meat business as well as the milk business. Currently, it is severely hit. People are afraid of even eating our chicken, mutton, and things like that. Where even without an evidence, so that's what social media has done to us. That people are just scared about consuming anything that is, in meat. But again, that impact is going to be short term because every one of us is aware we do not have enough land to grow food for everyone on the earth. And for certain countries, this is their staple. So they will soon come back. Maybe government comes in with new certifications for them. Retail non-food, again, this is non-essential items. Currently, impact is severe. Our government's guideline says that you are not allowed to even deliver non-essentials till the orange zone. Green zone have started it today. So practically, these companies had zero revenue for past 1.5 months. Again, the impact is going to be short term because slowly and steadily you will have to start accepting these things again. Logistics currently being hit severely majorly because of manpower issues. There are a lot of people who are scared to move out of their houses, but things are slowly picking up there. And when I speak about logistics, I'm not just speaking about your courier guy or the guy from Amazon or Flipkart who delivers it to you. I'm speaking about the logistics sector as a whole, which includes the supply chain, the global supply chain. There's so many companies whose imports and exports are stopped or are halted for certain reason or the other. There is a lot of material currently on sea. People who are associated with merchant navy, you would realize that your loved ones are away from you for a couple of months more than their scheduled time. But yes, the recovery will happen much faster in the logistics sector because the goods have to start moving again. There are economies based on it. Ancillaries, what I mean ancillaries is about all the businesses, whether it's auto ancillaries, whether it's home ancillaries, all the businesses that support the main industry. Again, they have been moderately hit because the main industries are hit. But slowly and steadily, the tertiary sector, the secondary sector will come into play. But yes, it's not going to be very immediate because the immediate consumption that is going to happen is going to be of essentials or maybe slightly wider aspect where we get into non-essential, but people are definitely not splurging money on ancillaries. Automobile, again, a luxury good, especially in a country like India. The impact is high because people are not getting food. Forget about buying an automobile right now. And that's going to be long term, especially when we see job losses. Currently, India is still in a protected zone where there are not, at least the numbers are not shown to us on a daily basis or a weekly basis that so many people have lost their jobs, but definitely there's a big downsizing that is happening. Entertainment severely hit. I'm sure everyone, how big of a Bollywood bug you might have, you are going to take every precaution for next 3-6 months, maybe avoid going, especially with the advent of Netflix and all entertainment coming to your home. You might want to avoid going into a crowded theater. I was speaking to the chairman of PVR a week back or so, and he said that they are redesigning their business. Their theaters completely where you might see distinct seats coming into business rather than how closely they used to be held together. And if I include things like IPL and other sports things, yes, the impact IPL is a washout this year, so the impact on entertainment as a whole is very big. Banking, what I mean, a lot of people tell me that the banks are still working, but it's not the same. The balance sheets are getting screwed up, especially when you have a moratorium coming in for 3 months. The banks are suddenly running out of cash flow. And believe me, there are a lot of people already speaking, especially in the stock market, that there are a lot of banks in line to get burst. Although I'm not sure how much of that is a correct news, but yes, we will see certain damage in the books of many banks. Gems and jewelry, again, falls under the severe impact because no one is buying gold. At least I haven't seen anyone buying gold. We had a Akshaya Tritiya that just went by, which is an auspicious day for Hindus and others to buy gold. We've seen a washout because the stores of many of these gold merchants weren't open. And the impact is going to be long term, again, because there is less disposable income in the economy. Hospitality, again, tourism and hospitality, I would put it together because it's the same sector. People are scared to travel. There's not going to, if you follow international news, Australia has said that they don't see the opening up their borders till November, maybe December. That means you have a 6-month washout, complete washout. You don't know what's going to happen in that sector. And especially hospitality, which is a capital intensive business, things look even bad. Electronics, again, a very highly impacted. It's the white good market. People are not looking to buy white good unless it's very necessary for them. All the luxury expenses have taken a backseat. Now coming to two more sectors which we'll spend some time on is the MSME and the startup sector. For these two sectors, I mean, there is no option. You have to survive or die. That's what I call perish or prevail. If you are ready to adapt certain changes, if you have the muscle to weather this storm and make necessary changes in this time, you are in, you can prevail. But the kind of things at this juncture, things are, it looks that a lot of them will have to shut shop, especially who have rigid business models. I mean, the time is very bad. Now, when we speak about the sector on the larger scale, people are even comparing it to be worse than the past three crises. And what I mean by past three crises, the 2008 crisis when we saw the credit crisis, when we saw Lehman going burst, we saw the dot-com crisis where a lot of tech companies went burst and people didn't know. And we saw the Asian crisis, the Southeast Asian countries, the Asian tigers suffering a crisis which took the world down together. So this, because here our battle is against an invisible enemy. We don't know where the end is. We don't know what impact it is going to leave. It's beyond the economic tools. Other crises that we have faced were more of economic in nature. You knew that certain pressures on certain points might get things normal, but here you are not aware about what's going to happen, and lives are at stake here. So there is a big debate currently going on whether to loop it on the economic side or whether to loop it on, I mean, whether to save the economy or whether to save the people. Now, what's in for the startups? Let us filter it down to what happens when young companies go through such time. There are many. I mean, I get WhatsApp messages on a daily basis where some startup company just stopped operation, laid off its people around. So, at least for the next couple of months, what I see is survival is the only strategy. But what happens once you complete that survival period, when the world is again open, when the world is again free? Do you think Make My Trip will get the similar kind of traffic what it was getting, especially with the airline traffic and the tourism going down the drain? I don't think that's going to happen. If theaters are not going to operate, what happens with unicorn companies like Book My Show? What happens with delivery if restaurants don't work? What happens with companies like Swiggy and Zomato? These are the critical questions that are, at least I being on the investor community, I am faced with. Where do I put in my money? First of all, the money which is already been deployed, how far I can recover or salvage it out? And secondly, where do I put in my next money? Where, to what company do I write my next check for? Now, when we speak about startups and we look at the startups that have come from 2005 to date, the last 15 years, there have been certain businesses which have just become unicorns. Whether it's Airbnb, whether it's Ola, Uber. The 2008-9 crisis brought in a lot of business model changes which actually changed a lot of things for us. Will this crisis end all of those? These are certain critical questions. I had a list of them in my previous webinar, which I could boil it down to currently three questions that you need to answer immediately to understand what's going to happen in next 10 years and where is the startup community going to go. Is the first question is brick and mortar things are of the past now? Is everything going to go digital? If you ask me, I am not very sure that 100%, but yes, I see the loop-sidedness of digital going much wider than brick and mortar in the next 10 years is definitely a possibility. I do not want to write off real estate as of now because yes, there's big money into that business. There's a lot of investment that's already there. But yes, people will start trusting digital more. Is it end of the post phase? The second question. Are you ready to trust your co-traveler? Are you ready to trust your co-host? Are you ready to trust your co-neighbor, co-working spaces? We have had companies like Incubator which have made money where they went onto a asset line model. Is it all going to end? I'm currently scared to sit next to a person. What if he coughs and if he's infected? I'm not in a position to take that risk. I'm not ready to travel with a person in a confined car where I'm not sure whether he's completely clean and completely medically fit. So is it end of the co-culture? Third question, will supply chain shorten and is it end of the middleman? If you are following the consumer space, especially the space which I deal in, the food and beverage and the consumer facing business, suddenly the supply chain has come to a halt. The distributor is not functioning, the retailer is not functioning, and businesses are finding their way of reaching the customer. What we call it now direct to customer. There is still Amazon, there is still Flipkart, which is there, but there are a lot of companies. If you follow the food startup space that closely, have started up their own website within ours using Shopify, using Zappo, a lot of tools, and have started delivering directly to people's house. And believe me, biggest of the VC funds like Fireside Ventures, whether it's Sequoia Capital, have been discussing the same with their companies of how do you get. In fact, we have 3 companies on board where we are dealing with consumer companies. We have been asking them to reach out to customer directly. It brings in the brand loyalty. It brings in, there is a reputation that comes in. People will retain your orders. People will understand that you were there in the time of crisis with them. Does this end the biggest and the oldest culture in the Indian economy, which is the middleman culture? Well, we can just sit down and guess. None of us have answers to this, but these are the questions that we have to carry with ourselves to take the decisions that are going to change our life in the next, as business owners, in next 3 to 6 months time. Now, how has this changed our life as a human being or as a consumer? Every startup that I have been dealing with is the initial slide that we spoke about is dealing with those questions. But yes, with a couple of months being into confinement, there are some answers which are already out. This happens to be one of the most important slides in what I've tried to capture the whole essence of my presentation and how the habits and the consumer behavior, if marketing people are in and around, they will understand that how consumer behavior has changed and why am I saying that there is going to be a next normal which every one of us has to face. People have started spending time more at home. Like every one of us is. I'm sure if this was a regular day, I wouldn't have even half of the people attending my webinar. People will start investing time in health. Yes, health is going to become critical. People who were not into very healthy habits have slowly started becoming more healthier. People have realized that it's their way of life, the immunity system is something that is more critical now. Although it's not something new that is coming, but yes, people have started concentrating. I see even with lockdown, people wearing masks and jogging around my building. The third point here is people will consume more of internet, more of entertainment, and more of information. Data is the next oil, and the way oil is falling, it's exactly proving out the theory where the data is going to be the next oil. And believe me, with the infrastructure like Geo coming in, where everyone has a mobile phone to consume data on, it is the next big thing which is going to happen. And with it, all the ancillary industries around it. Four, people have no choice but to go digital. With all the changes that I've spoken about by now, the golden word for it is digital. Yes, everyone is going digital, whether to buy something. Although this was the trend in past 6 to 8 years, but it's going to just flourish on further. Lesser public transport, more of private transport. Again, a very, very critical sort of a scenario which is coming into the game. We thought that uh, Ola and Uber would be our lives. There were so many people who delayed their own vehicle decisions of vehicle, buying a vehicle just because they thought that this could be the new normal. What happens if we don't have an infrastructure to where, like most of our cities in Delhi and Bombay are congested with traffic? But yes, people will start choosing in more of private transport than public transport. Could be cycles. We might see a new game coming up in cycle business, or maybe electronic bikes. There are startups working on it. And the sixth is people will travel less. What I mean less is more of not the domestic, but more of on in terms of tourism. So all your OYO rooms or your hostels, which had flourished in past some years on a co-sharing basis, might face the heat in the times to come. And this includes even the tertiary business of flight booking tickets. If you follow the stock market, IRCTC was a darling stock for past 6 months since it came into. Do you think people will go back to those times where they can travel very easily, very quickly? I don't see that happening at least for the next 6 to 8 months. Now, all that poison that we have spoken about of what's not going to happen, let's start building on things of what's going to happen. There have been a huge debate in the media that this is a Chinese crisis. There are people, conspiracy theories which speak about that this was developed in a lab and it's a biological weapon. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not a correct person to comment on it. But if you have followed John F. Kennedy's quote, which says, if you write crisis in Chinese, it is out of 2 syllables. The first stroke of brush says, it's a, if you look at what's on your screen, combine, if you take the 2 syllables, combine, it's called crisis. But the first one is about the danger, and the second one is about the opportunity. We've all spoken about danger. We've been living in this danger for past couple of months. Let's look at what opportunities lie ahead of. And especially for if there are some students who have joined in, these are all going to be your future employers. What skills are required? You need to start upgrading those. If we have entrepreneurs on board who are here, these are your business models that you would want to get into. Although the list is not exhaustive because, again, like I said, it's all unclear to me as well. So I have tried to pick up the low-hanging fruits, which I feel are the startups of the next normal, and which I see at least for a year, a lot of investment is going to happen in the north. So now we'll be speaking about 6 or 7 sectors which I feel will drive your startup economy for the next 1 year or so. What happens when your work comes home? All the businesses that make working from home easy, accessible on both sides as an employer and an employee is definitely going to drive the trend. We've all been using it for a couple of months. The idea of not having to go to office and work from home, which was only confined to gig economy and freelancers economy, is become everyday's life for everyone. So the tools which we've been using, whether a webinar tool like what we are doing, a video conferencing tool, or a collaborative software where you have a white drawing board, digital white drawing board where 6 of the team members come together and brainstorm, is a reality now, and it's about to stay. The stigma which Indian entrepreneurs carried कि नहीं यार office तो जाना ही है, is certainly all gone. It's certainly all gone. Everyone is happy. People have adjusted कि ठीक है जो हो रहा है अब वो तो उससे तो काम चला लेते हैं. So the next leg of startup companies could be software companies that provide video conferencing facilities, work collaboration softwares like Asana, Google Drive, Google, all those whiteboard softwares, and the cloud services where you actually store your data, be it Google Drive, Dropbox, and similar businesses like this are going to come. On the job side, on the human side, it's going to be gig economies and freelancing jobs which are going to give you crossover work. So there could be now people doing 3 or 4 jobs, spending 2 hours a day on everything. It could be a reality. There's a company in the US called as Crossover for Work, which actually employs people in some different countries. Their vision is to employ the best talent without borders. So if you go to their website and see the job openings, they ask you to become a director of a company which is in Brazil while you are in India. So people are slowly moving to that side, and this crisis is just going to give a push on that. What happens when your classroom gets accommodated into a screen? Similarly, what parents are going through with work from home, kids are going through with schooling from home. A big thing that is going to come in the edtech sector. Maybe 5 years down the line, it's going to be all online. You never know. Is it the real education? You never know. Is classroom the things of the past? I don't see them being wiped out, but yes, a lot of it could come digital. Now, edtech in its own senses is a very large sector. Not all startups in edtech are also going to survive. There are certain specifics which will become bigs or the unicorns of the next decade. But believe me, the way people have been speaking about edtech over a couple of months is actually bizarre. I mean, I do not see every business in edtech doing wonders. So what according to me could drive the next leg of growth in this subsector is programs or software that bring classroom to home. Similar to what we spoke about the webinar, classes are being held like this way. A lot of educational content will be developed now. I'm not speaking in terms of Baiju's only or similar companies like that way, but there's going to be a lot of content which the schools will now start creating. There have been some schools which are, instead of having online classes, they have asked their teachers to video record the content, and they have been sending it as video files to children rather than having live classes for them. It's happening. If you see US, I've been associated with a few universities there. All our classes have gone online, and it's indefinite. Most of them do not even come. Even with colleges like Columbia University, Stern, NYU, Stern, are all have given indefinite guidelines of when are they going to actually have a classroom. Education content, e-libraries. Again, what Kindle did with fiction and books, you might have e-libraries coming up with books, digital books. Although all of this is all there, I'm just saying that there could be a further push. There could be knowledge and skill development portals for kids as well, like we do for corporate training. You have LinkedIn Learning, you have Coursera. There could be a lot of this coming to kids as well. Then health becomes a priority. This is the third subsector which is going to drive. And when I speak about health, it's not about the medicines or the hospitals. I'm speaking about a lot of data that is being created in and around health. There could be companies with e-consultations. There could be companies which do content-based consultancies. You have companies like WebMed, which gives you symptom-based. They have a AI which matches your symptoms to your disease, and they give you a probable solution to it. Again, I'm not saying that this is going to wipe out hospitals or take away doctors, but this could be for those basic medicines which you used to run to a medical or your general practitioner. You might want to solve it online. Again, yes, trust building is something very important here. The next thing in the healthcare sector could become your tracking devices. Again, not just step counting, but there could be further devices that track your blood sugar on the move, that track your blood pressure on the move, that gives you those signals that something is not right with your body. And last but not the least of all this data that gets generated from your devices in and around, stuck in and around your body, is going to be the health analytics and the predictive analytics that is going to drive it. Your insurance companies will start using that data to actually count your premium. Whether are you safe enough? What is your lifestyle? How long are you going to live? What should be your premium? What should be your premium? What should be your mortality rate? All these things will be driven by health analytics. And believe me, there are a couple of companies that I had spoken to in UK actually predict what kind of diseases that you can get in times to come. And these are not something like a black swan event with corona, but these are diseases like if you are diabetic for too long, what organs of your body can get impacted, and they try to draw a report which says that maybe in next 15 years time, if you don't change your lifestyle, if you stay what you are, you might face something of maybe organ failure, or maybe contracting cancer, or maybe any of those critical diseases. So this is what the crux of healthcare is going to be, and startups here are going to play huge roles because all the larger companies, especially in the healthcare space, have a very rigid business model, and the only way for them to become flexible is to absorb or consume the startups that will come into these spaces or already exist in these spaces. The fourth sector is every one of us have been doing Netflix and chilling around. We've been binge watching things. Yes, that's your new entertainment. And what we foresee, again, one of the companies which I mentored in UK is currently, I wouldn't want to name it because it's currently raising capital, is trying to bring in stage shows and operas onto digital content. So you might have a Amazon Prime or a Netflix only for say plays. Could be. Only for musicians, only for opera singers, only for classical singers. You never know where are we moving. But yes, a lot of things that you learned or understood or got yourself entertained outside is slowly going to move in your houses. There were a couple of attempts by certain movie companies of releasing their movie on platforms like YouTube. Globally, it's happened. We yet to see, but this looks like the hottest of the cakes that's going to be available in the next couple of years. When you start eating healthy, now from all the digital sectors that we covered right now, let's start moving towards a couple of real sectors, I call it, because these are where the laggards are. These are where you can't do digital. I mean, you can't eat your favorite biscuit or your favorite cuisine online. You have to go out or either cook it at home. So what changes do we see here? Definitely meat is taking a hit because people have found it, even if it is not giving you diseases like, I mean, none of us, I believe, are in that category of Chinese people who are eating practically everything that is moving. But still, with the others, it's very difficult to trust meat now. It has to go through several checks. I'm not sure of where this is heading, but definitely, even with the hardcore meat eaters, I've seen them not touching meat for some time now. So, what replaces it? There is something called as mock meat, which is already out there, which gives you the same texture and the same flavor, yes, but made out of plant. This discovery was already out there in the market. We see further push coming into it. Meal kits are going to be next. What happens when the restaurant is not open? How do you cook your favorite cuisine? Back home is by way of meal kits. If you have gone on to Zomato or Swiggy, which I believe most of us have not gone in the past 1 month, if you go and check Pasos has changed completely of its business model from selling rolls to now meal kits of all the favorite dishes that you wanted. They pack it and give it to you. You just come home, reassemble all the packets, and just cook it on your own. Expect innovation in beverages. European startups have been doing big in beverages, especially functional beverages. You now have water like protein water. You have water which is becoming more healthier. There are companies which are working on water and beverages, not just the energy boosters, but for other things as well. If you are, say, deficient of iron, there is a iron water which is already there in the market, which takes away your deficiency while you just consume water and not rely on some capsule or a tablet which boosts your iron. Now, a biggest innovation in the food industry, something which I work very closely with, was the innovation of cloud kitchen. A lot of people got into cloud kitchen because it saved you on a lot of real estate. But with this pandemic out, cloud kitchen, I have had a 50-50 poll of whether this is going to survive or not going to survive. Although their sales recently have fallen, but if things come up and if social distancing prevails for a longer period, cloud kitchen could be the next restaurant what we might be seeing. So that's still a very gray area whether it's on the positive side or the negative side. Logistics. If people who attended my talk from the start, I spoke briefly about logistics in the first slide because yes, there is much more to logistics that's going to happen. There a lot of things if you don't go out to buy, it's going to come to your home. It's all the logistics that's going to drive it. And believe me, the innovations that are happening in logistics is humongous. It's not just the data, it's not just the tracking, but it's about drone deliveries, robot deliveries. I mean, if anyone wants to track what's happening in the logistics sector, just go to Walmart's past 10 acquisitions. They have acquired companies like Parcel, which in I mean, they claim to be anywhere around 500 kilometers, they can do delivery in 2 hours just because of their system and yes, associated infrastructure. There is going to be analytics and indoor mapping, which is going to take a lot of traction in days to come. What I mean by address analytics is company. How do you write an address? How do you tell Google that this is the address or this is the pinpoint which you have to? As human, you pick up your phone, you type in an address, and Google directs you to a path. How do you tell it to a robot? How do you tell it to a drone? How do you tell a drone to stop at this place and deliver something? There are these things happening. There have been concept videos where you have robots like suitcases which are taking your content in and around the city, delivering the last mile. So there have been some companies which have been working how to condense these addresses. There's a company called What Three Words, which has an algorithm which can condense every address that is available on this earth into three word this thing. So if I'm saying I'm in Mumbai, so it says Mumbai, Maharashtra, India, but that's not enough to take it to me. So they've been working on that algorithm. Indoor mapping, again, last mile is not restricted to your door. What happens if I'm working in, say, a big IT complex? Will my product directly be handed over to me? So what Google did is Google bought the mapping analytics to our doors. But what happens indoors? And especially when you speak about huge complexes that are there. So all these things are working out in logistics. There is a lot of satellite work that is happening in logistics. There are companies which are tracking metal supplies. There are companies which are tracking shipping orders. You can actually track down, if you just scan a batch number, it will actually take you to where your order is right now, which ship, which container, where it is happening. So all these things are happening in logistics. And believe me, logistics is going to drive whatever innovation. That's why I call logistics as a binder. Whichever business you go, if you are taking your business directly to consumer, logistics is going to play a role in your business, and could be a critical factor whether it leads to a success or a failure. Finally, what happens when your money goes digital? What happens when your wallets go digital? I mean, currently there are people scared. There was a viral video, I'm not sure how many of us have seen, where farmers in Karnataka were washing their currency notes. I mean, it was hilarious, but that rings a bell. Is it the distrust, the note that you're holding, does that carry infection? Is it feasible to carry large sum of money in cash? We've already seen a lot of things going digital fast. What's next in that? There are still security issues. If you see RBI governor is on television speaking about there is going to be save your mobile apps against viruses, threats, which can actually steal your money. So software protection in and around that, the payment gateways are going to be more stronger, and all the trackability and security in and around it is going to be the next leg in fintech. A lot of work has already been done in fintech, so I see less of space where more wallets would come in, but there could be more ancillary activities which can now start having safety of that fintech in and around. This would also lead to an online register and a digital ledger kind of thing, which again we have it in terms of blockchain, which is available. Because how do you track your online money? You need an online ledger as well, which records your transaction. And again, a very dicey topic which I have faced across the globe, but I'm a big believer in it, is cryptocurrency could be the next big thing. Because all what I've spoken in the previous 3 points on the slide, cryptocurrency and blockchain happen to be the solution that could actually drive how you use the money in the near future. So, I mean, there could be now. I mean, this is the last sector which I feel is. I mean, I'm here to cover. But what happens when? But this is not the end of the list. This is just the first round of things which, out of my common sense, knowledge, conversation with people, I could pick up. I'm not writing off anything for any startup. Again, I would want to say that, although I might have put some negative points for some startup founders, but this is not the end. These are just the start. This is just the list which I feel could not function off. Your analysis of this crisis could be completely different from mine. But these are the most common and the most low-hanging fruit that I could see, and that's the reason I've put in front of you. Now, I would want to end my presentation with one quote. Irrespective whether you are in a favorable zone or in a non-favorable zone, with your startup, with your business, with your economy, with your life, there's one thing which was very prominently said by Dr. Christine Lagarde, who's the president of ECB. Again, she spoke in the ECB conference recently on COVID, that given the nature of the crisis, all hands should be on the deck. All available tools should be used. A combined word for this is called hard work. And the lower in the pyramid you are, from an established company to a startup, your hard work just doubles up. Strategy is good, tactics is good, but if you are not ready to put in that extra sweat or walk that extra mile, your startup, that's the critical factor which is going to define whether you survive or whether you fail in the time to come. That's it. Thank you for listening to me. I've crossed my time by 5 minutes. I've eaten up into the Q&A round. But this is my contact details. If anyone wants to get in touch with me separately, I'm across social media. People who know me, I'm pretty quick on LinkedIn. I'm pretty quick on Facebook.